Hi guys, so it is Saturday, it's lunchtime. I've already had quite a busy morning and well, I'll show you what I've been up to. First things first though, had a nightmare week. My car broke down and it needs quite a bit of work. Basically £2,500 is going to be the cost of repairing it, which I could do without, I won't lie. But the poor thing, the flywheel and clutch needs replacing, and we're all in the same boat. It happens to all of us. But yeah, I could do without that really. So the hardest part though is that they can't even get the parts for like 3 weeks. So in addition to the cost of repair, I've also had to hire a van. So I've got a 3-week van rental, the cost of that on top. But it is going to make some things that I do that little bit easier. I did a podcast on Friday and it was called Byproducts, and I was talking all about the ways I use byproducts and the ways that, you know, we can all use byproducts. Not only byproducts that we make, but byproducts outside of our own systems. And in here, I've got a van full of them. So I've got 2 bins full of fruit and veg, and I'm about to empty all this out and go and get another one because I haven't had a chance to do any in the week. And I've got all these bin bags full of bread, and then I've also got back here some coffee grounds for our compost. So yeah, been a fairly busy morning so far already, but we're just getting started. I've also another bit of exciting news. I'm just going to go and get either the car or a wheelbarrow or something to move some of these bins because they're quite heavy. But I've also got, and I'm using right now, a new microphone. So regular listeners will be used to, or regular viewers rather, will be used to, when I'm filming outside, quite often it's spoilt by a bit of wind noise. Well, hopefully, this is my first real attempt at using it, but hopefully that will be a thing of the past with this new microphone. So fingers crossed. I'm quite excited about that. Basically, at the moment I've got, as you know, I've got a Patreon page, and I've used all the money that has accumulated there since I started this channel and the podcast, and I've bought a microphone, a half decent microphone with a what's called a dead cat, which is some fur basically that goes around it to keep out the wind noise. So hopefully you'll notice a significant difference. So I'm gonna get the cart and start clearing out the back of the van, and then I'm going to go and make one more trip. Now this weekend, the big plan, among other things, so much to do. I've got two big jobs really, and when I say big jobs I mean jobs that I'm really looking forward to sharing with you. So one of them is we're going to move the goats down into the bottom paddock. So you can see up here, you've already been fed. You've all been fed. I've fed the pigs and the goats this morning, but they all want more. The girls are due to kid any time from next Saturday. So this weekend what we're going to do is we're going to move them down into the bottom paddock, which they've been off all winter and has got some lovely lush grass growing in it. We're also going to move this house so that they've got lots of space, lots of options, because we've got the 3 mums, we've got the Billy, and we've also got Rhubarb. So I want all the mums to have as much space as they like. So that house that you can see down there it's a wall down the middle, so it's 2 houses, and normally there's plenty of room there for all of them, but we're going to give them this as well. So it's going to be quite a big job moving that, but we'll get that done this weekend. The other thing I want to do, and again one of the things that I'm really quite keen to share with you, is we're going to plant quite a lot of potatoes. And strictly speaking, we're a little bit early, but I've got a plan, and I'm going to show you basically some things you can do if you want to get your potatoes in that little bit earlier than online sources might recommend for your frost dates. I'm going to basically do a few things that are going to enable me to get them out this weekend, whereas strictly speaking, if I was adhering to the last frost date guidelines for potatoes, I wouldn't be planting for another couple of weeks. So that's what I'm going to be up to, among a load of other stuff. I've also got some seedlings to get outside here and put in our polytunnels. I've got some prep work to do on the second polytunnel there. Still got some compost to move, and all the usual goings on, all the animal feeding, etc., etc. Over the next few days, I'm hopeful that I'll also get a chance to go out and record doing some foraging, because there's quite a lot coming up at the moment. There is loads and loads of wild garlic out, so definitely going to get some of that. And we'll just have to see how the time goes as to what we can achieve, because of course I'm going to be spending a big portion of my weekend, as always, on cooking. This evening I'm not sure what we're making, but I know I'm cooking fish because I've got that out, and then tomorrow a giant leg of pork, a whole leg. So yeah, quite a busy weekend. I forgot to get my sourdough out the fridge last night, so my system is I get the sourdough out the fridge. So you remember back along, this bit came off and I effected a repair, but I obviously didn't do a very good job, so I'm going to have to quickly fix that again, hopefully more permanently than last time. But this time it should be made considerably easier by how beautiful and tidy everything is in here. I should be able to get everything I need pretty much straight away. Yeah, so that was a much more pleasant experience than last time. That's definitely done it. It's really starting to warm up now. I'm not sure what the time is. My guess is 2 p.m. something like that, but when that sun comes out, oh, it's lovely. It's been a really cold week. I've been sat on a digger all week, so I don't normally mind it cold being outside because I'm working hard. I don't really suffer with the cold, but when you're sat on a digger, it's tricky to keep yourself warm. So next up, I'm going to go and grab one more. You see, I brought an empty bin back with me, so I'm going to go and pick up my last bin load from outside the house. I'm also going to pick up a few fence posts, because you've probably noticed, or you may have noticed, there's 3 lime trees in where the goats are, and they're stripping the bark off them. They haven't killed the trees yet, and the trees will recover, but I need to put some fencing around them to protect them a little bit better than they have currently, because at the moment I've just got some chicken wire around them, which is just about coped with keeping them off the tree enough. Like I say, they have stripped some of the bark, but what can't happen is them to ring it completely, and that will kill the tree. So I'm going to get some fence posts and build some little tree guards around it while they're not in there. Now, there's no rush on that. I've got all the time in the world to do that, but while I've got the van, it just makes it that little bit more convenient to pick up the timber than obviously usually when I'm running around in my albeit large car. So I'm going to go and pick those up now. Every step I take, I'm seeing more jobs and adding them to my to-do list. I've got to be careful or I won't get anything done that needs doing. So there are some things that are obviously time dependent and need doing within a certain time scale, and others that don't. I've got all this compost still to move here. It's not loads. It'll probably take me a couple of hours at the most, maybe no less than that, an hour. But it's not urgent. I don't need to do that now. We've also got the grass needs cutting, and that does need doing within the next couple of weeks, because otherwise it will take that much longer to do. But anyway, I'm going to draw a line under that there. I'm going to go off and get my last bin of pig food. Catch up with you guys shortly. So here I've got my seed potatoes, and I've got 2 different types here. I've got first earlies and second earlies. My first earlies are called Maris Bard, and my second earlies are called Estima. No, those both say Maris Bard, okay? But my second earlies are called Estima. What I'm going to do, I'm going to plant most of them in rows here. So we're going to have a row of each here, and then I'm going to do something to protect them from the frost, because there's a really good chance that we're still going to get frost. Now, potatoes, once they've got going, if you get a frost, it can kind of kill the leaves and really knock them back, but usually it won't kill the plant. It'll just sort of kill the leaves. So potatoes are not a frost hardy plant. I'm not saying that they are, but generally speaking, once the plant's got going, it will just kind of knock it back rather than kill it. But having said that, you definitely don't want that from your potatoes. You want them to get on and do all right. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some of these row covers over them. Now, I bought these quite some time ago in the £1 shop. So they're extremely cost effective, and they've actually lasted more than one season. This will be their third season, so I'm really happy with how long they've lasted. But the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grow some in containers, which is something I've not done before, and I actually got the idea from Mike Copeman, who shared with me his success of growing them that way. And he's the admin on our Facebook group. So thanks, Mike. I'm going to give that a go this year. But the beauty of putting them in containers means that I can actually put them inside my polytunnel, and I don't have to worry about them taking up the space that I want for tomatoes, because I can just hoik them out when the temperature does get up a little bit. So first thing I'm going to do, I've got these buckets down here behind me, so I'm going to fill some of those with compost, take them up to the polytunnel, and then we'll get planting. Now, I've not filled my buckets up, and the reason being is we're going to want to be able to earth up our potatoes as they grow. Starting to warm up and this sunshine is absolutely delightful. So let me just check which is which. So the ones with the purple eyes here, this is a stupid place for me to be filming, isn't it? I've got that electric fence running right in front of me. Let me just move that. That's better. So the ones with the purple eyes are the Maris Bard, and they're my first earlies. And then my second earlies are the ones with the green eyes. Now, they can both go in at the same time, and in fact there's nothing stopping you planting your main crop varieties at the same time. But what I'm trying to do here is I'm actually trying to steal a little bit of extra growing season by putting them in earlier than I should. There is no point in me risking main crop potatoes right now, because I can just put them in a few weeks when the risk of frost has gone. What I'm going to be doing is succession planting these first early varieties. So I'm going to get most of them in today because I am expecting to be successful. Like I say, we're going to use a cover to keep the frost off as best we can, and we're going to have some growing in the polytunnel. When I say I'm going to succession plant them, what I mean is if I do get failure, if we have really deep frosts that come and destroy this crop, I'm going to be ready and prepared to put a second crop in a couple of weeks' time. Maybe 3-4 weeks is more accurate. But for now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a row of each of these up this new piece of raised bed here at the front and up into the existing raised bed, and we're just going to put them in this compost that's above ground level. That's how we do it with a no-dig garden. It couldn't be any simpler. And let's start just by putting one of these first earlies, the Maris Bards, in here at the front. And as I said, look, all we're going to do literally is we're just going to make a little indentation with our hand there, big enough to get our fist in. We're going to pop our potato in there and cover him over. And we're going to mark our row with our slate marker, just like that. So I'm going to get a row of those in up there, and I'm going to get a row of our second earlies in up this side. I'll do that now. There we go. So that's all done now. Those rows are planted. Now, you might be thinking, hang on a second, Carl. You didn't actually plant that row of spuds. Well, I did. I actually did. I stopped the time lapse and I went off to go and find these row covers. You see, these are ones that we've used in previous seasons, and I had to go and find them. And then I came back, planted the potatoes before I remembered to start the filming again. So they are in there, I assure you. So we've got our first earlies and our second earlies and our row covers that are going to just help with the frost. I'm really happy with that. And you know, if without these covers, I'd be taking a really big risk putting them in this early. Well done. My wife would like to report some eggs. 4 from her Brahmas today, the ones I always tease about being useless. I only had these 6 row covers. I wasn't going to buy any more. I've got to be honest, my headspace has shifted a little bit since I bought these. I probably wouldn't buy any more plastic to bring onto the property if I can get away with it. So I think in future I try and make my own, or I'm not sure, maybe I would, maybe I wouldn't, I don't know. But anyway, I'm not going to go and buy any more for this little tiny bit of the row at the end. So we can call that an experiment. It's actually quite nice to have a few outside that and see how it gets on. One of the great things about sharing these things with you is that I can look back on it next year, and this kind of documents when I was putting them in. So yeah, really happy. Row of first earlies, row of second earlies. We've got plenty of seed potatoes left. So we're going to put some now in these buckets to basically, you know, grow them as if they were in containers. The beauty of these is these are going to be able to go inside the polytunnel and we can move them out later. Now, these covers, the potatoes aren't going to need these, and they're going to outgrow these pretty fast. They're not going to need these as soon as we're not going to get a frost. So in just a few weeks, we'll be able to move these to somewhere else, to another plant that might benefit from them. So I'm going to get these in the buckets now and then pop them in the polytunnel. Now we just pop these in the polytunnel and we're done. So you can see I've only half filled the bucket, and what we'll do is we'll top that up as the plant grows. One of the beautiful things about growing potatoes in a container or a no-dig bed, it's just, I cannot emphasize how much better it is. 2 years ago, I almost gave up growing potatoes full stop because the back-breaking, agonizing work of digging them up. When you're growing a lot, now potatoes are a really important crop if you're trying to grow as much of your own food as you can, because in terms of, you know, something filling on the plate, they're so much easier to grow than, you know, grains, or in our climate trying to grow rice and things like that. So in terms of, you know, that filling thing on the plate that goes with your meat and vegetables, they're just such an important crop. So we grow a fair amount of them, and when you're trying to grow a lot, digging them up in a traditional garden where you're digging the soil and you're kind of having that more compacted soil underneath that all your tubers are going to form in is, and the depth they form at was just agonizing work. And I got 2/3 of the way through my potatoes one year and I couldn't take any more. I'd had a busy day or week at work, I guess. You know, I guess I was already physically drained before I'd started, and I just thought, never again, I cannot do it, I have to come up with a better way of doing it. And at the time I was already using a no-dig method for a lot of my other crops. Now Charles Dowding, who's one of the chief proponents of the no-dig method, is something of a gardening personality now because of it. He'd come up with the no-dig method for all his crops and uses it to great effect. Well, I had no idea about his system and his idea. I'd come to no-dig gardening for a lot of my other stuff just through my own thoughts and feelings and beliefs on the soil food web, not disturbing the soil. And, you know, I used to make little tiny pockets in the top and just put a little bit of compost in there and plant into it. So I was already doing that, but I just couldn't fathom a way of doing no-dig potatoes until I did find, you know, I searched that term and I found one of Charles Dowding's videos, and it was just a revelation. The idea being, and I'll show you this later in the season when we get there, but when the potatoes start popping up, we're not going to be earthing up in a traditional sense. We're just going to be dumping about a bucket of compost on top of them. And the the potatoes that we're going to want to eat are all just going to form above the ground in that really loose compost in the top, which makes harvesting them a joy. It's a completely different experience to harvesting them with a fork and digging them up. So a lot of them will take the plant and lift it, and a lot of them will just come straight up out the compost on the plant, and then we just kind of sift around in that loose compost on the top to get the rest. There we are. That is our early potatoes. So I'm thinking this is going to be the earliest potato crop we've ever had, because not only are we, you were using all of those things that I talk about all the time to extend the season, using the right variety. So we're using a first early potato that's going to, be ready earlier than, any other type of potato, first earlies. We're also using our mechanical methods of extending the season. We're using this polytunnel. We're going to be using those row covers. We're using, the best possible variety of potato to get that early crop, and we're also using the earliest possible methods we can. And it looks quite nice as well. That bed looks planted now, whereas if I just plant the potatoes in there like before without the cover, you don't know. So I feel much happier about that as well. That's a great job done. I'm really happy with that. So we've got a handful of our seed potatoes left over, which I'll probably put in a couple of weeks. I'm not sure exactly where yet. It might be down through the front of this bed, or it could be in more containers. We'll just have to see how we get on. It's funny, I went into this season thinking that we finally had all the bed space we could possibly need. As soon as you start planting a few rows of potatoes, it's amazing how quick that space gets filled. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. Anyway, I think that's going to wrap me up for today, because I need to go in and make a start on dinner next. But tomorrow we're going to be back out here again, quite probably with my wife, and we'll be moving these guys into the maternity paddock because they're due to kid any day now. So you can look forward to that one. So that's it for now. Thanks ever so much for watching, everyone. Make sure you press that like button. Make sure you're subscribed. Come and check out the podcast. Podcast drops 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday and Friday. And if you do want to support the show, then please do check out our Patreon, patreon.com/selfsufficienthub. Thanks for watching. Speak to you guys soon. Cheers.